Today in the Gospel we heard that some people brought to Jesus a man with the speech disability. Jesus took him alone to heal his impediments. What could be the reason that Jesus took him apart? Had the man wanted to be healed, or did he come to Jesus for the insistence of the people? I think Jesus might have found that he had no faith to be healed, and to make him convinced of the divine power of God, Jesus took him apart to do the miracle. Sometimes what happens to us is the same. Jesus might find us without faith and might take us away from the rest to let us know the value of a spiritually oriented life. He was brought to Jesus by people because they wanted him to be healed. We in turn are called to be agents to take people to Jesus, so that Jesus could bring the lost one back to his fold. For that we have to be convinced of the divine power of God and should show our faith in our daily activities. We have to become an instrument of God to take others to Him. For that we have to open ourselves to Jesus. At first we have to ask Jesus to make us understand His divine power. Once we have felt the power of Jesus, we are called to live a committed life in Him. For that we have to get closer to Jesus every day to feel Him in us. Have you felt the presence of Jesus in your life to share with others? Have you offered your entire self to Jesus so that He can make you His messenger? To be His messenger means to be opened to the Lord. As Jesus pronounced the word Ephphatha, that means be opened, in the Gospel of today, the man received the ability to speak. The people could do nothing more than to take him to Jesus, who had the power to do miracles. Do we take others to Jesus so that they may feel Him in their lives? We have to receive the power to live in the presence of God, and then, experiencing daily the mighty hand of God in us, we should lead others to Him. At first, we have to open ourselves to the Lord and to His plan, so that we should allow Him to open our eyes to see the presence of God in the poor and the needy, to open our ears to hear the cry of the abandoned and forsaken, to open our nostrils to smell the taste of sufferings and violence in the world, to open our hands to reach out to the downtrodden and the helpless, to open our mouths to speak the consoling words that comes from above, to open our hearts to be compassionate and loving to our brothers and sisters, to open our minds to think logically, to do good things for the entire creation. Analyzing personally, we find that we have closed mentality in accepting and fulfilling the will of God. Each day the world is getting worse because each one is interested only in their well-being. We are very reluctant to do some act of charity to the needy, and if we do something, we make a great show that the people may give you glory. We have to open our lives not to the world but to the Lord to carry out His plans in us. When we are focused on worldly things, we become impartial because we become of the world and we think in a worldly way. We fail to see the divine power and our judgments become material oriented. We see only the immediate things to judge and fail to observe the everlasting virtues. We tend to make a great distinction of worldly and heavenly virtues. We judge everything with the criteria of human thoughts. When we are not open to the spiritual values of our daily lives, we fail to see the truth and reality. We are blind to the divine power and we become of the world. That is what St. James tells us in the second reading of today. Have you not made distinctions among yourselves and become judged with evil designs? He speaks about the difference between rich and the poor. It could be of any situation of our lives. Have you not made such distinction in your life? Have you not made the poor and neglected suffer for your sake? Have you not made use of the vulnerable for your own benefits? Have you not made yourself a person with duplicity? When we analyze, we find that we have fallen into the trap of Satan by not fulfilling our duty to serve our brothers and sisters who are in need, and we find ourselves that we are really poor in spiritual growth. I am sure that you know the anecdote which say, "Dad, how poor we are." Let us listen once again. One day, a father of a very wealthy family took his son on a trip to a country with the firm purpose of showing his son how poor people live. They spent a couple of days and nights in the farm of what could be considered a very poor family. While returning from the trip, the father asked his son, How was the trip? Son replied, "It was great, Dad." "Did you see how poor people live?" the father asked. "Oh yes," answered the son. "So tell me, what did you learn from the trip?" asked the father. The son answered, "I saw that we have one dog and they have four. We have a pool that reaches to the middle of the garden and they have a creek that has no end. We have imported lanterns in our garden, but they have the stars at night. Our patio reaches to the front yard and they have the whole horizon. We have a small piece of land to live on and they have fields that go beyond our sight. We buy our food, but they grow theirs. We have walls around our property to protect us. They have friends to protect them." The boy's father was speechless. Then his son added, "Thanks, Dad, for showing me how poor we are." We have to count the richness not in material wealth and possessions. Rather, we count our richness in values, in virtues, and especially in generosity. When we are opened to the reality of our lives, we become compassionate towards the needy. The compassion should take us to the service without counting the cost. Then we can be like Mother Teresa of Calcutta, serving and loving the needy without expecting a reward from them. Our reward comes from God. For that, we have to become an instrument of God to lead others to the green pastures of the Lord. Says Prophet Isaiah in the first reading of today, "Say to those whose hearts are frightened, be strong, fear not. Here is your God. He comes with vindication. With divine recompense, He comes to save you." This should be our mission, to take others to see the richness in the divine power. Our God is generous in sharing His wealth with those who live in the presence of God. May the good Lord help us to be open to the realities, to serve others with the heavenly virtues, to receive and share the miracles of the Lord. Amen. Father Shiju, for the 23rd Sunday in Ordinary Time, 9th September 2018. Thank you so much, and may God bless you all.